Alright, today we're going to try to fix something, and I want to show you the zxwtool in this video, which is super helpful for the kind of repair we're going to do today, which is an iPad mini digitizer connector where the technician butchered pads when removing connector from board. Also missing one capacitor next to the LCD hold down just above the digitizer connector location. Alright, let's take a look at this. This really is really botched. This is what happens when you try to take a digitizer connector off without using enough hot air. And so let's see what we're looking at here. We're missing a lot of pads. We're missing pads there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 missing pads that we need to deal with, and that's a drag. This part's okay because that's ground. Let's start by putting a new digitizer connector on there, and then we're going to make a plan for how to address all these missing pads. So I've already done a video before where if you're only missing 1 pad or 2 pads, you can get away with making a small micro jumper that's between the sort of nub of the trace that's left in the board and the pin of the new connector. But with 7, that's a lot. It's going to be hard to get 7 tiny little micro jumpers all to fit where they're supposed to nicely. So let's go ahead and start with, let's not do any micro jumpers to start with, and we're just going to kind of put this new connector on the way it should go natively. So let me turn on a soldering iron, and I'm just going to use the mini hot tweezers to get this on here, and then we will start kind of strategizing for all these missing pads, and we'll end up just building long jumpers since there's so many of them, and we'll see if it works. Now digitizer connectors are kind of an all or nothing thing. You either have touch function and home button function or nothing. So we'll be able to tell whether or not we can get a success here. Alright, that's what I can do on that side. Now I'm going to flip this board around and do the other side. And then after that we can get started on the jumpers. And that's where the zxwtool is going to come in super handy for that. So before the zxwtool, you'd have to just look at the schematic and really, step 1, figure out how to map the connector to the schematic, because it's not as it appears. I think this one's actually like the reverse of how it appears. And then from there you'd have to kind of trace each pin and try to figure out where it goes. A lot of them would sort of end up under BGA pads under big chips. So there really wasn't an option to kind of make a micro jumper that would tie in somewhere. So if we know where the test points are for those lines, then we can tie in those lines at the test points. And that's going to be our strategy here. Alright, let's clear a couple of these little bridges real quick. Okay. I think that's probably good. Actually, I'm not sure about that one. Oops. This is, I get equipment questions constantly, and I feel like I've talked about equipment a lot, but this is the Bona 2300S microscope with a V7 stand, and I really like it. Not everybody likes it. There's been a lot of complaints about it. I'm not sure I love the Microscope.com customer service, so I do recommend people go to Amscope. In my experience, Amscope and Omano are identical. It's one of those things where, one time I remember shopping for 10 years ago, shopping for hot tubs was the first thing I bought when I started working at a startup company. It was really awesome. And I remember learning that like the Sundance line and the Sweetwater line of hot tubs were both manufactured in the exact same facility, and they were built on the same line, and they just sort of were manufactured under different brands. And you know, clearly they had a lot of similarities between those two lines, and that's how I feel about a mono and Amscope. I cannot imagine that they are in fact like really separate companies. I think they're both sort of kind of made in China microscopes, and they are the best quality that you can get in this price range. You know, so they're not to be confused with, you know, Leica and, you know, true microscopes. But in this price range, you know, less than $1,000, they are really good microscopes and perfect for this kind of work. So if you have to choose between a mono and an Amscope, you know, just pick the one that has better customer service, a little bit of a better price, or is closer to you. So for customer service, I think that with the experience Lewis had recently, that Amscope is definitely the winner there. But if you already have a mono, you know, it's fine. I use a mono. Yeah, this isn't a monoscope here. My first scope was an Amscope. I don't see any difference between them at all. No practical difference. Okay, so here we are with our kind of basic connector on. So let's start addressing the missing pads. So let's start with, let's see if we can remember where they were missing. All right, let's start with this one. So this is pad number from the anchor, 1, 2, 3, 4 up from the anchor. So let's see if we can figure out where does it go. And that's where we are going to turn and get some help from the ZXW tool. So the ZXW tool looks like a little USB dongle, and you plug it into your computer and open up the software, and it looks something like this. So this is really just a board view software. The ZXW Zillion Times Work is a board view software for iPhones and all these other devices. And so what you're buying is a key to somebody's work here. So at any time they could say, fuck you, I'm taking this whole thing down, and you're left with a useless USB stick. But these guys have really done a lot of work, and I think it's fantastic. So let's see how we would solve this problem. Let's look here. 1, 2, 3, 4 pads up, and it tells us that this is pin 14 of the J1700 connector, and it tells us the circuit name is AP_clock_32K_cumulus. So it's a touch line. All right, so where does it go? If we zoom around here, it will be highlighted in red. So it looks like it goes under the processor. Fantastic. So there's no way that we're going to be able to come up with a solution to make a jumper from the pin of the new connector and tie into the line under the CPU. That's not happening. So we can look on the other side of the board. So if we look down here on the other side of the board, it says, oh, and by the way, there is a test point for that line. Hooray! And it is sort of, there's 1, 2, 3, it's in the middle of this on the bottom side. Excellent! So let's see if we can find that. So we'll go back to our microscope and take a look. So let's flip this thing over and cross our fingers that we can see that. And there it is. So that's pretty straightforward. So now we can get a blob of solder and just make a simple little micro jumper. So I'm going to use, let's see, hot tweezers, I guess, because they are on and hot. And I use them for everything. There we go. Now I'm going to take a little bit of a enamel coated magnet wire. I don't know the gauge, I don't know the manufacturer, I don't have any clue. I tell you what I know, and if I don't know, I don't feel like looking it up. So if you ask a question and I don't answer you, it just means I don't know and I don't feel like looking it up. All right. All right, and that's all we need to do. So just scraping it a little bit, scraped off enough of the coating to allow me to make this connection. So this looks like a, you know, dangerous piece of conductive wire, but it is coated with a kind of painted on spray enamel. All right, so now we have to do a little bit of surgery and get it into place. So we were connecting this to the 4th pin of the connector. So 1, 2, 3, 4, yep, so it goes right there on that guy. I'm going to try to squeeze it off now because this might be a challenge to get it to go where I want it to go. All right, now I think I'm going to switch over to the micro pencil because this is pretty tiny. All right, let's get some flux on here and see how that would go. All right. There we go. And that's attached. All right, so let's see how that looks. All right, 1 done, 6 to go. So that now we have a nice little micro jumper that goes from A to B. All right, let's do one more, and then I think you get the picture and we can kind of skip ahead to the end. Mostly because I gotta go take Sam to soccer. Oh, this is actually not soccer, basketball. I almost thought I was a soccer mom, but I'm not. I'm a basketball mom. All right, let's go back to the good old zxwtool and let's map the next one. Oh no. All right, so let's, I hope none of that microphone cords just came out. Trying out a new microphone. It was a Black Friday deal. We'll have to see how it works. Okay, so let's find the next pad, and you can do zoom in. So the 3rd one down. Grape, IRQL. And where does it go? It shows us down here at the bottom view that it goes right sort of underneath what looks like an antenna connection. So let's see if we can find that on the board. So let's go back to our microscope view and cross our fingers. Awesome, there it is. So that's easy enough. Okay, so let's do another one. I will put a little bit of flux. Pretty sure that's the right dot. I probably should go back and check, but soccer starts in 15 minutes, so we're not going to. We're going to hope for the best and see if I have to come back here and do this again. All right, micro pencil is a little underpowered for that, so I'm going to go back to the hot tweezers. And let's find my jumper wire. Okay. Now if we wrap around the board again, let's drill down. Now we've got to hit the 3rd pin on this connector. I have one good pair of tweezers here. Been meaning to order the tweezers that Mark recommends from SparkFun. These ones can't even grab it enough to wiggle that off. Yeah, these tweezers, and these ones are funny. I put a piece of tape on them marked pry. They're the ones that I've been using to like pry open shields and stuff like that. So they are really no longer longer suitable for anything but that. Oh, here's the other ones. All right. Back to the micro pencil again. Spin this around a little bit, get some solder. And let's see if we can't make that joint. So I'm going to tin my micro pencil tip. That's got it. All right, two done. Ha, ha, ha. All right. So what we're gonna do here is, I think I'm gonna make this a clip and stop this so it doesn't get just super long and boring. And then I'm gonna do the exact same thing to finish one here at these other two for 4. And then I'm gonna come back to the other side and, oh, I got a piece of solder on there. And then I'm gonna put some micro jumpers where they go on that side, and then we will fire it up and see if that's good enough to go. All right, so basketball practice is over, and now it's time to finish up this mini. So let's see, I have put it back into the housing, and I think that the jumpers are good. So let's take a look at what I did. I put the charge port back on. It's easier for me, I think, just to take a charge port off rather than rip out the entire charge port assembly. All right, let's take a look at these jumpers. It doesn't look pretty. We'll have to clean this up a little bit if it does work. But these are all attached, and I want to check for continuity between the actual connector and the jumpers before stressing this thing out with plugging something into it. Alright, so that's all good. On that side I ended up so that's 4. This one was ground, so I left it off. And then I did number 6. And then number 7 is just a jumper for the home button. Okay, so they're all connected, and I don't think any of them are shorted. I can come back in here and clean up that area if it works. But let's find out if it works. So I've connected the charge port, and let's give it a try. So this should be kind of an all or nothing thing. So many minis. So the touch IC itself on the screen, on the part, that's what sort of controls the digitizer ghosting and whether or not there's any dead spots on the board. The touch connector on the board is kind of all or nothing. If the touch connector is missing pins, then you'll have just no touch or no home button. So we're going to test home button, top power button function, and digitizer function. If we have all 3 of those, then it's a good connector, and if not, then we need to kind of go back and edit and try to figure out, you know, maybe that ground is required, or maybe the stress of plugging and unplugging caused something to come loose. But in theory, you know, it's pretty straightforward, and we should have touch. So let's find out. The point of this video was really just to kind of show the ZXW tool. Yay, touch. All right, so we have touch. Everybody can see touch. Power button, home button. All right, so we're good to go. Let's go ahead and power this off. So without the ZXW tool, it would have been really hard to find those test points, because on the schematic, those are not easy to locate. You know, they're not easy to find. You could just sort of search the pins and then look at the schematic, searching the lines and try to find the test points. But I've done that before, and it doesn't show them on that mini schematic. So this was one of the first like really awesome uses for the ZXW tool. So everybody's going to ask, great, where do you get this thing? So and what is it? So what it is a little dongle, which is a key, and it's made by the guys at www.zxwtools.com in China, and these guys, they make the tool, which is a key. You buy it, you plug it in, and you have to kind of muddle your way through some Chinese, and then you will, it's a little bit buggy. It'll shut down for no reason sometimes, and it will, kind of be specific. If you put one tool in one computer, it doesn't like for you to come along later with a second one in that same computer, things like that. But most of that stuff can be worked out. We ordered these from China, and the first batch that we ordered was confiscated, so it can be a risk if you're doing like a group order with a bunch of people, bringing these in. So we did stock a few of them in the store. So if you want to buy them from us, you can send me a quote request at the website. It's definitely going to be cheaper to source them from China, and that's what I recommend that everyone have a relationship with someone in China that they can personally source things from. But if you don't, and you're risk averse, and you don't want to take the risk of getting something confiscated at customs in your domestic U.S., then you can order them from us, because I do think this is one of those really powerful tools that if you're doing board repair, schematics, troubleshooting, then it's absolutely really does it really does make you do work a zillion times faster. So zillion times work ZXW tool. All right, that's it.